Good morning, viewers. I welcome you all to your own channel, KP Slit Charts. This is Professor KP Mahapatra. Today we will take up a new area that will be the modern poetry. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, we have to understand what was the background when modern poetry was written. As you all know, the First World War broke out in the year 1914 and it continued for 4 years. It ended in 1918. And the effect of the First World War was devastating. It not only shattered the socio-cultural, political, economic backbone of the society across the globe, it also impacted the human psyche. A trail of devastation was noticed. Along with that, the human beings lost their zest for life. They felt totally desperate, disillusioned, disappointed, and they began to search for their identity. In the year 1922, the renowned English poet T.S. Eliot brought out his path-breaking poem, The Wasteland. It was written in 1922, and The Wasteland focused on the devastations of the First World War and the post-war disillusionment. So the state of desperation, state of despair and despondency began to prevail throughout the post-war period. As a result, the young men and women, they are not only frustrated and disappointed, they began to search for their identity. They thought, what are we going to do? What will be our future? Why should we study? When the entire economy is devastated, where shall we get employment? So, this was the devastating effect of the First World War. And apart from that, the background is that, the industrialization. In the modern age, there was rapid industrialization, rapid urbanization. As a result, the focus shifted from rural area to the urban area. And there was also a kind of, moral uncertainty, spiritual barrenness. The Victorian sentimentality was rejected. So the modern poetry started as a counter against Victorian sentimentality and the reflection of Victorian literature's conflict between religious mysticism and scientific temper. Victorian literature dealt with the conflict, the kind of contradiction between the religious mysticism, religious dogmas, and the scientific temper. Because science believed in experiment, observation, and conclusion, but religious dogmas, they prescribed only certain traditions, certain conventions, certain principles, certain customs to be blindly followed in the name of religion. This was totally rejected in the modern age. And there was also noticed a remarkable break from the tradition. There was a break from the tradition, and the British poets or the modern poets, they rejected the meter, the rhyme scheme, the rhythm, and they began to write their poetry in free verse. They were influenced by the French symbolist Baudelaire, Charles Baudelaire, and the American poet Walt Whitman. So they wrote, in free verse or verse liber, they said content is important. And what is the content? Content is post-war disillusionment, search for identity, individual crisis, individual issues, societal issues afflicting the human beings, existential problems. What is our, essence? How do we exist? First of all, we have to exist in order to prove our essence, in order to prove our worth. So that was the kind of problem that was faced during the modern age. And there is also the reflection of a disjointed life. Modern poetry dealt with the disjointed life, distracted life, fragmented life, life without a hope. In a way, a kind of pessimistic outlook, nihilistic outlook was developed by the modern poets. And there was subjectivity, the element of subjectivity. They, of course, wrote poetry having a universal implication, but their theme focused on a particular subject, especially the subject which is faced by, or the issue which is faced by the individual poet. For example, in the Westland, the poem has 5 sections, and the first section, Burial of the Dead, begins with the biblical, memorable, quotable lines. April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring the dull roots with spring rain. Now the question arises, why should April be cruelest month for the Britishers, for the people of Britain? Because April is supposed to be the spring season. April used to herald the spring season, the king or queen of all seasons. People used to indulge in revelry, festivity, excitement, thrill, get together, party, picnic, outing, and whatnot. But the poet finds that there is bleakness everywhere, because he has referred to a myth that the ruler of Britain, Fisher King, has become important. Since he has become important and lost the power of productivity, so we being the subjects in Britain, we have no charm in life. So April appears to be cruel for us. And the same poet, he describes this world as a wasteland. He says, this is a wasteland, this is a dead land, this is a cactus land, there are heaps of broken images. In another poem, The Hollow Man, he says, we are the hollow men, we are the stuffed men, our headpieces are filled with straw. This is how the poet has expressed, Eliot has expressed his disgruntlement, his disillusionment, wrought out of the post-war devastating scenario. So when they wrote in verse liber, there was no restriction about the meter, about the rhyme, about the language, and they used symbolism. Imagist movement was started by a great poet of modern age, Ezra Pound. Ezra Pound was the pioneer of imagism. You can notice how images are used. Wonderful, brilliant, fascinating, fantastic images, fabulous images are used in poems like Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, written by T.S. Eliot. The poem begins, let's go then you and I, when the evening is spread against the sky like a peasant etherized on a table. Look at the brilliant symbol. Evening is compared with a patient administered with anesthesia. As a patient, after being administered anesthesia, lies motionless, lies still on the table. Similarly, the evening is lying like a patient on a table, and it is spread against the sky. And there you find the poets, eminent poets of the modern age like T.S. Eliot, W.B. Yeats, W.H. Auden, Ezra Pound, Wilfred Sassoon, Wilfred Owen, Siegfried Sassoon, Wilfred Owen, all those people, they depicted, not only the post-war devastations, but along with that, they began to make experiment with language. They adopted the stream of consciousness technique. They adopted, the technique of conveying their thoughts in a colloquial manner. They also used colloquial speech, and they made use of unconventional syntax. The syntax which is not conventional, unconventional syntax they adopted. The poets also made use of irony, ambiguity, alliteration, and there was a very great attempt, a very sincere attempt to find meaning in life. They find that the entire atmosphere is chaotic, full of turmoil and turbulence, chaos and confusion, trials and tribulations, devastations, destructions, disillusionment, disappointment, despondency, desperation. Still then, the poets did not leave their attempt to look for harmony, look for essence of life, look for meaning of life, which becomes evident in the last part of Eliot's poem, What the Thunder Said. What the Thunder Said is the last section or the fifth section of the long poem The Wasteland, where he has said, Datta Dayadvam Damyata Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. These lines are taken from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Look, a British poet, a renowned, eminent, legendary British poet, has gone through Indian classic, Indian scripture, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and he has quoted from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Datta Dayadvam Damyata Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. It means Eliot has wanted to say that even if there is a very negative, very pessimistic atmosphere, bleak atmosphere, still there is hope. That's why you can bring about harmony by doing what? By datta. Datta means offer, give, donate. And dayadvam. Dayadvam means show compassion, sympathy, mercy. And dhammyata. Dhammyata means control your evil desire, control your anger, control your envy, control your hatred, so that you can rise above all those bad qualities and you can become an ideal human being. So this is how modern poetry is all about. Thank you very much. We'll stop it here. Please like, share and subscribe to your own channel, KP Slit Charts. I will be coming to you very frequently. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.